California versus Texas. This is a debate that has been going on for decades, but I'm going to be specifically talking about nursing salaries in this debate. And I'm going to compare which state is going to make the most sense for you if you're looking to move and work in one of these. So I am going to be comparing all of the cities in the state of California where nurses' salaries are collected, and I'm also going to compare them to the salaries of nurses working in cities in Texas. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Jason. I'm a nurse and I work in Sacramento, California. I've been living here with my wife, who is also a nurse. We have been making videos on YouTube now for almost 4 years. And in these 4 years, I've done so much research that I've been able to dissect exactly how much nurses can make in over 590 cities across the US. So I am going to show you my method first, because I know a lot of people are always asking, how is it that you find this data and is it reliable? So let me show you exactly what I do to gather all of this information. And the first thing I need to show you is that the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually collects data for nurses and many other professions. If you go on Google and you type in BLS registered nurse salary, for example, you'll go to this page, and in this page you can view just summarized information. A lot of this summarized information doesn't really go into the specifics of the city that you may be interested in moving to. So how would you go about getting that data? First, let me just show you what this page looks like, right? If you scroll down, you're going to see there's data on a state-by-state basis. And you may see California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Pennsylvania listed as the top 5 highest employment level in registered nurses. And if you keep scrolling down, you're going to see that there's an annual mean wage of registered nurses on a state-by-state level. You'll see that the dark blue is going to show the nurses that are getting paid the most. If you keep scrolling down, you'll see more information, right? But you don't see the data for every single city that you may be interested in moving to. So let's go all the way to the top. It says here you can create a customized table. Click on that link. When it takes you to this page, it's going to allow you to customize the data exactly how you want it. And basically what the Bureau of Labor and Statistics does is that it collects data for different professions across the US, and any income data that's reported in a specific city is being reported to the IRS, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics collects that data. So here is what I'm going to do on this page. Let's go to select one occupation for multiple geographic areas, meaning we just want to look at the registered nurses' salaries and their data. And you're going to scroll down this list. It's a long list, and I actually have a spreadsheet that contains more of this information, not just for registered nurses, but I have one that has over 51 professions as well as 7 professions in the nursing industry. So I'll give you an example. Let's go to this spreadsheet here. This spreadsheet is a spreadsheet that I put together, and I'm going to go over it later to show you guys how I can compare California rates or California salaries to Texas salaries. And basically, if you go here, you're going to see that you can select the role that you're interested in comparing. And for the purpose of this video, we're just going to compare registered nurses, but you can also compare nursing assistants, licensed practical nurses, which are LPNs, nurse practitioners, nurse anesthetists, nurse midwives, and nursing instructors and teachers. Now let's go back to the next page again, and let's customize the data. So we're going to look for registered nurses, and we're going to keep scrolling down because there's so many different professions in here. There's so many different careers that you're going to take a long time just to find the one that you're looking for. So we're going to keep going and keep going till you find healthcare practitioners. And towards the bottom, you see we saw educational. Okay, we have health teachers, post-secondary. For example, here you're going to see nursing instructors. That's one of the professions that I have on my spreadsheet. Now we're going to keep going down till we see registered nurses. And again, there are so many professions in here that it's going to take a while. You see all of these here. I also have data on, other healthcare workers like pharmacists, like dentists. We have veterinarians. We have therapists of all sorts. We have registered nurses here, right? So again, we have multiple nursing professions. We have nurse anesthetists, we have midwives, practitioners, etc., etc. So we're going to select registered nurses. And then what we're going to do is we don't want to look at a state by state level data, because if you do that, you're only going to see the mean or median annual wages or rates on a state by state level. But if you are in a specific city or you want to move into a specific city, the rates in that specific city may be higher, way higher than the national state level rates. And that's why we're going to go on a city by city level. So you're going to click on metropolitan or non-metropolitan area. Then here you can select the city that you want, but we're going to select all of the cities on the list. So we're going to select every city in the US that the Bureau of Labor Statistics collects data for. You're going to select next, and it's going to take you to the following page. In the following page, you can either select all data types. You can also select hourly mean wage. You can select annual median wage, and you can select any other one of these factors. So there's also annual mean wage. What I do now is I select the annual median wage, because the annual median wage is going to be the most accurate if you're thinking about looking at the 50th percentile. So if you have all of the salaries, right, and you're looking at the people who earn the most and the people who earn the least, basically what will happen is the Bureau of Labor Statistics will take all of those salaries and put them from lowest to highest, and whichever one lands in the middle is going to be the median, whereas the average might be skewed by people who make more money. And the same thing happens in the United States, right? So like if you have billionaires who are making billions of dollars per year, and then you have the majority of Americans who are actually making like $40,000 or $50,000 a year, the average salary is going to increase because those billionaires are actually bringing the average number up. So we're going to go by the median salary in this case, or the median wage. You're going to click next, and the latest data that we have here is from May 2023, and you can either select it in HTML form or Excel form. I personally do it in Excel form because I'm able to sort the information, but let's just look at the HTML version of this one. So you click submit, and now it has provided you with a city by city level of information, and I selected the annual median wage. Again, you can go back to these inputs and you can change that. So let's say I want to select more than that. I just want to also see the hourly median wage. I can click on next, submit, and now I can see what the hourly rates are. So let's say I want to look at New York City. I can actually find New York City on the page. So I can click on find and then type in New York, and you see here it says Central East New York. That's not what I want, right? I need to remove those. I want to look at specifically New York, New York. So here you see we have New York, Newark, New Jersey, New York, right? So if you scroll to the right, you're going to see that the hourly rate is going to be $52.18, or an annual wage of $108,540. Okay, so you see right here, we have $52.18, correction. This is $52.18 an hour. And then we have $108,540 a year. That is going to be the median annual wage for nurses in New York, New York. Now, what do we do with this data once we have it? Well, there's different things that I do, right? So I go to a website like, first of all, let's copy and paste. I'm going to copy the annual salary. I'm going to go to a website like smartasset.com, and I'm going to do a paycheck calculator, right? So I'm going to type in the annual wage right here, and then I'm going to select the location as New York, New York. I want my pay frequency to be annually, and I'm just going to leave everything else as is, right? I could add additional stuff to here, but I'm just going to leave this as is because I want to compare all of them in the same way. Now, let's look at a place like Ithaca, New York, for example. I'm going to copy and paste the median annual salary, which is $83,000, put it in here, and we have $62,198. Which is just about right. So what I then do is I go to a place like Zillow.com, and let's just do the search right over here. So let's look for New York housing market, right? So in order to find out what the median home prices are, because remember, we're not just looking at the median salaries. We want to know how much we're taxed in that specific city, and then how much we're paying for our mortgage expenses or our rent if we choose to rent. So let's say you take that median number now for your salary after the taxes are deducted. You then want to know how much your mortgage is, right? So we need to find out what the home price is. In order to find out what the home price is, I usually go on Google and I'll type in the city, the state, and then follow that by median home price, Zillow. In this case, you're going to see that the top number says that the median price is $757,540. If you click on this, you get the same number, right? So we're gonna go back to the spreadsheet and find out what that number is. Again, right? This is New York, New York, and we have 757,540. That's the home price. And I've done this for every single city in the US that the Bureau of Labor Statistics collects data for. All right, so let's go back over here. We want to find out what the mortgage payments are going to be. And just for simplicity's sake, I want you guys to just follow along with me for a second, okay? So we have New York, New York. What we need to do is input the median home price into this calculator here. And I'm putting 757,540 with a down payment of 20%. Now, I used to have a term of 30 years here, but when I did that, it actually under calculated the number. So as you can see here, let's say I put in 30, right? I'm going to see that now my estimated monthly payment is $4,664. This is not accurate. Actually, the number that's closer to that at this moment in time is going to be the number when I put the 20-year loan term. So I'll click that, and now I have $5,300 as my estimated payment. And it's because it's this website, technically they say that they're calculating the taxes and the insurance based on the zip code that I enter, but it's not always accurate. So I'm just gonna go with the 20-year loan term instead, and I think that's as close to what I can get. So I then take this number, right? I take this number of my estimated monthly payment, which is $5,317. I put it in here. Right? So it's $5,317. Now I can find out how much I'm going to have left over if I own a house after I deduct the mortgage payments and my taxes. And on an annual basis in New York, New York, I'm only left with $16,000, right? $16,776. My monthly take-home pay after taxes and mortgage payments, not even including my bills, right? I'm not including gas, electricity, utilities, groceries, none of that is going to be $1,398. That's all I have left. So if you consider all of those other factors, you will be in a net negative every single month if you consider all of those factors. Then we have to consider someone who may not want to own a house and probably just wants to rent. In that case, let's search for New York, New York median rent prices on Zillow. And that is right over here. Now, the median rent price, if you click on the first link, for all types of homes, you can choose which one you want to do. You want to do a studio, you want to do a 1-bedroom, you may want to do 2 bedrooms, and so on and so forth. But what Zillow does is it takes all of the homes, their bedrooms and apartments, or the home, like residential homes, and it calculates a median rent based on whatever apartments or houses are available for rent at the time. And at the moment, what we have is a median rent of $3,495. So you take this number and you plug it into the spreadsheet, which is $3,495. After that, we find out what the annual rent payments are. And then based on that number, we can find out how much money we're going to have left. And as you can see, in New York, New York, we have $38,640. But we're in this video to compare California to Texas. So let me show you what that is going to look like. I am going to select California on my list over here, and I'm also going to select Texas. Now, as you can see here, all we have is Texas and California on our list, and we're only comparing registered nurses. But if you wanted to, you can compare all of them by selecting this, highlighting it, deleting it, and clicking away. Now I'm comparing every single profession that I have on this spreadsheet. However, let's go back to registered nurses. If you want a video where I'm comparing all of the professions, I'm comparing nurse anesthetists to nurse practitioners to registered nurses in all different cities in the US, then just let me know and I'll make a video about that. Okay, so now we have registered nurses. Let's take a look at how much we're going to have as a median annual salary first, right? So here we are, we have California and Texas. California and Texas are the only 2 states that we want to compare to one another. Let's look at the median annual salaries first. And you're not gonna even, this is not even news to anybody, because California is definitely going to pay nurses more than Texas. And that's mainly because the cost of living is going to be higher in California than it is in Texas. And if you're thinking that you're not going to have any money left in California because the cost of living is too high, then you're going to be sorely mistaken after watching this video. All right, so now let's take a look at how much you have left after you purchase a home in any one of these states. So I'm going to select on the top right over here, leftover annually if owning. Select that there, and you're going to see that Redding, California is actually going to leave you with the most amount of money. Now, we don't know how much that is yet, but let's go down this list. And you're going to see that as we go down this list, we have Vallejo, or Vallejo, California, however you want to pronounce it. I've had people come at me for pronouncing it incorrectly. Go ahead, you can tell me in the comment section below how I should pronounce it. Okay, so we have Vallejo, California, we have Modesto, we have Oakland, yeah, Oakland, believe it or not. We have Sacramento, Fairfield, Arden Arcade, Stockton, and Watsonville. So we have these right here, but this is only if you're choosing to own a house. And I know people who are going to be in the comments are going to say, yeah, but you can still get a cheaper house in Texas. Yes, you can, but you are making so much more money here in California that the income is going to offset the cost of housing. And you also have to understand that when you're looking at the home prices here, not all of California is expensive. And I'll show you what I mean. So in Redding, you are going to see that the median home price is $387,000. In Vallejo, California is $542,000. And if you go down the list, you'll see that the average is still less than $1 million. Not all of California is as expensive as paying more than $1 million for a home. So now we know this information. Let's take a look at which city in Texas ends up being the closest to this one. Right, so I'm going to scroll down this list. Okay, so we have Port Arthur, Texas. And Port Arthur is actually one of the cities that always ends up on this list as being like the top 20 in terms of cities within the US that you want to work in and live in if you're a nurse. And in a future update, and for those of you that are watching this video, I'm working on an app. I am going to allow you guys to compare not just city to city or state to state. There may be some nurses that are willing to work in one city, so they'll look at the median annual salary for that one city, but they want to live in another city. So they'll be able to see what the home prices and the rent prices are in that city that they want to live in. Because maybe you just want to commute and you're willing to commute. So I want you guys to have the most amount of information so you can make an informed decision when you're choosing to move and work in a different state or a different city than the one you live in, right? So in Port Arthur, Texas, why is it so far up the list? Like, it's not as far up the list as all these other California cities. But the reason it's so high up there, ahead of those other cities in Texas, is because the median annual salary is $78,000, but the home prices here are also extremely low at $103,000. And there's something else that I want to share. The violent crime and the property crime rate. As you can see here, it's 54.1 and 62.5. Now, the median in the US is 50, right, for both of these. And as you can see, you will experience slightly more violent crimes than the rest of the US, or you may experience a portion of property crime compared to the US. Right, so that's something you need to consider also. And that's why I included it in the spreadsheet, and I will include it in the app in its final version. Okay, so let's take a look at the next city in Texas. We have Beaumont, Texas. So in Beaumont, the salary is very similar, if not the same, as Port Arthur. Yep, $78,630. However, the home prices are $149,817. So the home prices here are going to be about $45,000 more than the home prices in Port Arthur, Texas. But if you look at this list, let's take a look at all of them, right? We have California and we have Texas. This is how much you're going to have left over if you are owning. So if you own in, let's say, Redding, California, then you are going to be left with $66,731. If you go down the list, you're going to see Vallejo, California is $65,000, followed by Modesto at 61,000. Then we have Oakland at 60,000. Yeah, believe it or not, you will be well off in Oakland as well, because the average pay there, the median pay, is $173,000. Because many nurses work at Kaiser. There's nurses that work at Sutter Alta Bates. There's many other areas there, or many other hospitals, that are going to pay nurses over $150,000 a year average, right? Or the median. And then you have Sacramento, and that's where we live. Because when you look at the home prices here in Sacramento, $481,000 is the median home price. And then nurses here typically earn about $137,000 as the median salary. But if you're working for a hospital system like Kaiser Permanente, that's why I didn't include the averages, because a hospital like Kaiser Permanente is going to increase the average salaries. And it's going to look like nurses make actually more than they really do. So that's why I'm using the median salaries. Now let's look at the median rent. So if you choose to rent, where are you going to be better off? And that's why we're going to select this one right over here, leftover annually if renting. So we're going to select that. And now these numbers and these cities have changed. Oakland is now number 1. And the reason for that, like I mentioned, is that you're making $173,000 in Oakland. Same as Hayward. Oakland and Hayward are pretty much in the same location, right? They're very close to one another. And if you scroll to the right, you're going to see that the home prices are $757,000 for Oakland, $879,000 for Hayward. You also will be able to see that the rent payments right over here are going to be relatively low, $2,275 for an apartment, the average apartment or home that you want to rent in Oakland, and $2,500 in Hayward. In Oakland, you're going to have $102,000 left over after you pay for your rent. So your rent is going to be $27,300 a year, but because you are being paid so well in Oakland, you still have 6 figures worth of income left over to pay your utilities, to buy groceries, to travel, to invest, to do all of those things. Now let's look at the city that's closest to California, but it's in Texas, and you're going to keep going down and keep going down this list. And now we have Beaumont. Beaumont is all the way down this list. We've gone past 20, maybe even 30 different cities before we got there. So, and actually, let me count it. So 39 cities. We've gone past 39 cities. You see it on the bottom right over here. I don't know if you can see it. There are 39 cities where nurses are going to be making more and bringing home more money if they rent in California than they will in Texas. So now let's compare Beaumont, Texas. If you're in Beaumont, Texas, this is what you are bringing home. So this is the annual income, right? If you live in Beaumont and if you are renting in Beaumont, right? So $50,516. And that's what you're going to have left over if you decide to rent. Now let's take a look at all the other cities. You have Port Arthur, Texas, which is right over here. And you're left with $49,000 or $4,100 a month. So it's Oakland, California at $8,500 a month versus Beaumont, Texas at just above $4,200 a month. So $4,210. So you're basically bringing home twice as much if you choose to live in Oakland, California versus Beaumont, Texas. And there's one thing though that I do need to mention. And the one thing that I need to mention is that if you've heard anything about California and Oakland, California specifically, is that the crime rate is higher here than it is probably anywhere else in the US, right? If you look up crime data for cities across the US, you're going to see that Oakland, Texas, or Oakland, California has one of the highest crime rates of any city in the US. And here you'll see that this city has a crime rate of 84.9. This is as close to 100 as you're going to be. And when you're thinking about property crime though, it's 88.2, right? So if you're looking to live in a relatively safe place where you still will have a lot of income left over, you have to consider this, right? You have to consider the crime rate. So that's exactly what Monica and I did when we decided to move to Sacramento. It's not the safest city by any means, but let's take a look at where Sacramento lands. So this is Sacramento right over here. Now let's go to the right and you're going to see that in Sacramento, the violent crime rate is 35.6 and the property crime rate is 46.9. It's not the best, but it's also not nearly as bad as it is in Oakland, California. And here, if you decide to rent, you are still left with $80,226 after you pay for your rent, because the rent here is an average of $1,995. So I hope you guys found some value in this video. And if you did, please subscribe to this channel, share it with your friends, because I know there are friends out there who are probably saying, even if you move to California and you make a lot of money, there is no way you're going to end up with a lot of money, right? So share this with your friends. And also, I need to mention, there are some people that say, yeah, what about the gas? You're going to be paying a lot of money in gas. Well, if you live in a place like Sacramento, first of all, Sacramento has so many hospitals. Just in the city of Sacramento, you have Dignity, which is Mercy General. You have Sutter in Sacramento. You also have Kaiser in Sacramento, Kaiser in South Sacramento. You have UC Davis. You have Shriners Hospital. You also have more Dignity hospitals like Dignity Woodland. You have Dignity in many other places. But what I'm trying to say is, oh, I forgot to mention, you also have Sutter Roseville, right? But you have so many hospitals in this area that you will be, the most you'll be driving to get to work is maybe 10 miles, 10 to 15 miles to get to work. And that's if you live in the city of Sacramento. And usually it takes me about 12 to 15 minutes to get to work because I live in Sacramento and work in Sacramento. Monica, my wife, she's a per diem nurse. She makes $133 an hour. And she works 8 minutes from our hospital, right? That's how close we are to our hospital. The most we spent on a yearly basis on gas, not including travel, right? Because when we travel, sometimes we do a lot of road trips. But the most we'll spend on gas is about $2,800 to $3,000 a year. So in the grand scheme of things, your gas bill is not going to be as high as a lot of people make it out to be. And let's say, for example, that you are paying $6 per gallon, which is entirely not the case, right? But let's say you have a car and it takes 10 gallons to fill up that car, right? So 10 times 6 is $60. Now, let's say you're in a state like Texas, and let's say they are paying $2 for their gas instead of, $6. So you do 2 times 10, that's $20. That is an extra $40 that we are paying in gas when we fill up. Let's say you fill up twice a month. That's $80 additional per month that you're spending to fill up your car in California versus Texas. Now, is that really a lot of money when you're still bringing home $8,000 if you're living in a place like Oakland? No, it is not. So please consider all of these things when you're thinking about moving somewhere. And one last thing, if you are interested in buying this spreadsheet, you don't just want to wait for the next video to come up. We have it on our website. So you can go to our website. You just type in nursestoriches.com. And in our website, you can go to our shop and you can select this spreadsheet right over here. This one is going to have the rental comparisons to the mortgage prices or to the mortgage payments, right? So you can click on this one and just purchase it directly through our website. Or if you want to become one of our course members, where I provide all of this information as a bonus, right? So like in addition to the spreadsheet here, I also include another spreadsheet, this one right here. And this spreadsheet will allow you to find what the rates are in the highest paying hospitals of California. So I've done all of this work for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. You can get most of this information for free. It's publicly available. Like you can go and find the contracts and look up their rates for all of these professions or for all of these hospitals, but you cannot calculate this just by looking at the contracts. You have to do this manually. So let's say, for example, right now, I myself, I'm a nurse and I work, let's say 30 hours per week. In fact, like I actually work 20 hours per week, but let's say I work 30 hours per week. I can select that and you see these numbers, they change automatically, right? So you put that in there and they change automatically. But let's say I have 30 years, I work 30 hours per week. I have 5 years of experience, not 10, right? Like if I do 10, it changes it. But let's say 5 years of experience in the eyes of the hospital system that I want to apply for. Because sometimes you might not be credited the full amount of experience if you transfer to another hospital. right? So if you're transferring to the Kaiser system and you have 10 years of experience, the most they'll give you is 5 years of credited experience. So you'll come in as a nurse with 5 years of experience in the eyes of the Kaiser system. Then I want to select evening shift because that's the shift that I currently work. But you can change this number. Let's say you want to work base or you want to work night shift. You can change that as well, right? I work evening shift, so I'm going to select evenings. And now I can see how much nurses in my hospital system are going to be making if they work 30 hours a week, evening shift, and they have 5 years of experience. And in my case, it's $161,000 a year. But let's say I want to find out what my taxes are going to look like because I've included that as well, right? So go to the tax sheet, and now I can see what my monthly take-home pay is going to be in my hospital. And that's $8,700 a month. Well, let me move here. $8,700 a month if I work in this specific hospital. And you can also look at the other hospitals because Stanford right here will pay you $9,200 a month after taxes. And you can change those parameters here, right? So like, let's say I want to know what my yearly or my annual salary is going to be after taxes. I can do that too, right? And there it is. Kaiser, $104,000 a year for working 30 hours a week. That's way more than you can make as a nurse in Texas after taxes, or in most cases, even before taxes, right? So you're bringing home more after your taxes are deducted here in California than you would in Texas before your taxes are deducted. And that's working 30 hours per week. Anyway, this was a long video, but in the following video, I'm going to discuss what the best cities in the US are when you account for your mortgage payments and your rent payments. And if you want to watch that video, make sure you subscribe to this video and also watch all of our other videos right over here.